Forge the Narrative.
Hey everybody, welcome to Forge the Narrative. My name is Paul Murphy, your host. We are the Battle of Lost Souls podcast. I'm joined tonight by Ricky Addington and Chris Morgan.
For the third time.
This is like a hat trick. I think I've got 3 in now, right?
Boom, boom, boom. Talking about Space Marines.
It's like Christmas, guys.
I don't know if you know this, but Adeptus Astartes are now dead. They've been replaced by full-on Space Marines.
Yeah,
that
true
didn't last
scale
long.
for life.
Well, okay, I say that. I'm joking around, of course, because this is Codex Space Marines.
Well, Codex Adeptus Astartes, Space Marines, it was a mouthful, let's be honest. That's a lot.
Well, I mean, look, I get it. I completely get it. But then, I don't know if any of us ever stopped saying Space Marines.
Yeah, no, well, because Space Marines is easy to say, and I get it that, we need to brand ourselves, but Adeptus Astartes it's like she sells seashells by the seashore or something.
To be fair, though, also, the keywords for the stuff in here is also Adeptus Astartes. So it's just kind of funny that we've reverted full on back to the Space Marines. And so in our hands right now, look, we're actually coming in, we're recording later than we normally would. And in our hands, we got right now the Codex Space Marines, Codex Supplement Ultramarines, and Codex Supplement White Scars.
Think GW-ness that they finally showed up, because Chris has been sweating. I've never seen so many text messages. Is it here? Is it here? Is it here?
Angels of Death. That is a new set of special rules that includes the Bolter Discipline and the Shock Assault. So the Shock Assault is if this unit makes a charge move, is charged, or performs a heroic intervention, add 1 to the attack's characteristic of models in this unit until the end of the turn.
Thank you, GW.
Yeah, I mean, there's no getting around it. That's pretty strong. So we're going to talk about, I don't know how far we'll get over the course of this episode. This will probably be a multi-episode type discussion upon the Space Marines, because, this is the thick codex, probably the thickest codex they've ever released for this faction, and then we've got supplemental codexes.
I was just going to say, I say we do this like a St. Jude marathon, and let's all just take a shot of NyQuil, and we just start going, and we just see how long we can go. And if we make it till the morning, we just release it.
You say that like we haven't done that before.
This time we do it on purpose.
192 pages in the Space Marines Codex.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
There are no special characters in this codex. They're all, if I had to guess, and of course based on what we see, I would assume that all the special characters are going to be in the supplements. So, for instance, Guilliman is in the Ultramarines supplement. Casero Khan is in the White Scar supplement.
Oh, okay, that's something I didn't expect, that the character models would be in a different book.
Yeah, no, none of them are in this book itself.
So, are we expecting Dark Angels to have its own codex, or a codex supplement? Is this what we're going to now as codex supplements for the Space Marine book proper?
Look, this is pure speculation, all right? But, if you remember back to 3rd edition, like the Blood Angels Codex and the Dark Angels Codex, Space Wolves
Angels of Death, yep.
No, that was in 2nd edition. In 3rd edition, there was
right, I'm that old. Yeah, sorry.
Codex Space Marines, and then the Blood Angels, etc., were a supplement to that referred you back to Codex Space Marines. So, they had an entry like, Landspeeder, go check out Codex Space Marines. That's what it said.
Yeah.
It said X page in Codex Space Marines or whatever.
Yeah.
I did hate that, though, so I'm hoping this is done a little better.
Well, okay, think about this, though, is that if this becomes the tome for all the stuff, that means that it's all unified, that you don't have to worry about disparaging rules between different things. Look, I don't know. And we've seen that a number of supplements that are coming for Codex Space Marines, but we don't know what they are. So if I had to guess, they're Black Templar, Imperial Fist, Crimson Fist, that kind of stuff. I don't know that we'll see Space Wolves, which, by the way, I recently re-downloaded all the electronic codexes, and I'd kind of forgotten the Space Wolves had their own codex.
You'd forgotten?
How do you forget that?
Because you hadn't seen them until like the
yeah.
ATC recently. You hadn't seen them.
Yeah, that's true.
And
more power to you, I guess. I see him around here, but woof. I say woof.
Yeah. All I'm saying is that I think we're of course going to see those supplements for the chapters that are what were previously in the Codex Space Marines. I don't know that we'll see the big four as a supplement. I don't know, though. I mean, I wouldn't mind if we did.
It would certainly be interesting, and it's not ground we haven't covered before, so to speak. But yeah, I would be very surprised if any of the supplements that are coming out have to do with any of the other first founding chapters that aren't covered in, or that haven't been typically covered in this book. I mean, they've talked about having downloads for the different codexes, like Blood Angels, Dark Angels, Space Wolves, to say these are the models and the data sheets that you can use. But they haven't done that for any of the, like for Ultramarines or White Scars or for Iron Hands or any of that stuff. That leads me to believe that we can expect to see our own thing later.
So all the new units that have been released are in this codex. So the repressors and stuff. The Repulsor Executioner is in this thing. I was actually talking with a friend of mine recently, like the Repulsor, the regular Repulsor on a Sky Shield landing pad. If you can get over the fact that there are not really rules to put models on top of models, we can kind of assume that you're supposed to do that with the Sky Shield landing pad, that it's really difficult to charge. You can create quite the gun platform, on that thing.
My buddy has the, he has the Astraeus grav tank, the big boy, tank that come out for the Primaris. Although Primaris can't get in it, but he has an Astraeus and Repulsor.
Oh, you're talking about that big, like, double autocannon looking thing.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, the model is sick, okay? And the rules are actually pretty solid, too, especially when Guilliman's standing next to it, right? But he had an Astraeus and a Repulsor, and he was in a game, and somebody charged both of them. And they're two separate rules. So the guy had to subtract, I think it was 5 or 7 inches or something from his charge roll because it stacks. And so that was a interesting way to prevent someone from charging you, was to just park these things so close that someone almost all has to charge both, and then force like a -5 to their charge roll.
So the Repulsor Executioner and the Repulsor both have that -2 to your charge rolls when you're charging them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have to factor in any vertical distance in that, then you're creating a pretty reliable fire base.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably pushing -5, -6 inches once you count in the vertical movement and everything. I mean, you're going to have to roll 7-inch charge easy, I'd say.
And I don't know that that's necessarily good, but I will say it buys you a turn.
Yeah. But I mean, it depends. Like Repulsor, I mean, they just fly away anyway. So, if they don't kill it, just
scoot on out.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if you do get a charge off, you might not be able to get as many models in as you expect.
Yeah.
So I'm just putting it out there.
My big thing, though, especially with the Repulsor and the Repulsor Executioner, is they both got a points hike, didn't they, with this book?
The Repulsor is a base points of 215. So what is it currently?
So it is 210 in the Codex for chapter approved. Hold tight here.
This is without weapons and stuff. The Repulsor Executioner is also 215 points base.
Okay, so the Repulsor in chapter approved 2018 is 185 points.
Yes, that's a fairly significant jump. I mean, once you start adding all the weapons too.
For an already expensive tank. I mean, it's already almost prohibitively expensive to play.
Well, just make them, unable to be charged. There you go. You shoot all the time.
Well, I mean, if you're Ultramarines, I mean, honestly, like, Ultramarines don't really have to worry about the Repulsor getting shot up too much. I mean, if you got Tigurius in your list, you can make a Repulsor hard to kill. -1 to hit,
yeah.
T8.
Big news for some of this stuff is they get the chapter keyword.
Yeah.
So, I mean, frame everything with anything we talk about that all this stuff gets the chapter keyword.
That's something people have been wanting for a while.
Well, it was awkward, right? That they didn't. So, but, now they're it's going to have that stuff. So anything like Iron Hands or whatever, you get to play Iron Hands with your extra rules on the vehicles and stuff. Big news is the drop pods. So in the drop pod specifically has a rule that says in match play, this model and any units embarked aboard it are exempt from the Tactical Reserves match play rule.
There you go.
That means a lot of stuff. So in the Tactical Reserves match play rules, that's where we get the can't come in turn 1. Half models or half units. That's all. It's all wrapped up in that rule, I believe.
Yeah. So we're going back to potentially having an entire null deploy army and turn 1 deploy drop pod army, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, it's expensive though with 65 drop pods, right?
Base points 63 points.
with a 2-point Stormbolter. Is that still?
Stormbolter is 2 points, yeah.
Yeah, so no change there.
65 points.
Yeah, 65 total.
I mean, okay, so let's talk about this for a minute. You can take a dedicated transport in most attachments for every unit that you take. There's nothing in the rules that says you have to include a unit in that transport. So in certain missions to where controlling in-game objectives or in-game table quarters or whatever, or line breaker or whatever is important, you simply put an empty, naked drop pod in reserve and keep it until turn 6 and deposit it right where you need it for an extra point.
It's also exempt from the turn 3 you're destroyed automatically.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. That's part of that overarching rule, I believe.
The tactical reserves. You would put this on the fact watch.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that it calls out. This is one of the only data slate entries that I've ever seen that says BTW in match play. This is what happens.
Yeah.
I mean,
G-Stealer cults can take their stuff off till turn 6. I'm fine being able to keep something off until turn 6. That's fine. A 65-point unit to get me line breaker. Cool.
Drop pods specifically cannot include Jump Pack, Terminator, Primaris, or Centurion units.
Come on.
So you can only put the regular old Marines in there, the old Marines in there. But think about coming in turn 1 with Marines. I mean, part of the reason that Primaris are strong, or stronger, let me say that, is because they have the 2 wounds. That means if you don't go first or whatever, you can endure a little bit more punishment because you've got that extra 2 wounds. You got a smallish unit size. You're going to be in cover. You're going to be sitting with a 2+ save, with 2 wounds. If you get to decide the initiative or the tempo in the battle, then maybe old and busted Marines get to be dusted off a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel attacked.
Yeah, remember you could put a lot of Stormbolters in a drop pod. If you think about it, you put 10 guys and then 10 dudes with Stormbolters. That's a lot. That's 40 shots coming in turn 1 in somebody's backfield.
A tactical Marine is 12 points apiece. A scout Marine is 11 points. So you're looking at 55 points or whatever for a scout squad. Then an additional 65 points. What is that? What are we talking about? 120 points?
Mm-hmm.
At that point, to be able to come in with 2 units, one of them probably being objective secured. A 5-man body unit being objective secured to be able to come in and be immune to that, have to come in by turn 3, or can come in turn 1. So if you're playing something, you need board denial, you need presence, you can build that wall of drop pods again. I mean, I don't want to say that it's like the be-all, end-all, but you've now created a dynamic with being able to bring in drop pods, and they're a factor again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm having Battle Demi Company flashbacks right here.
Oh, that was a fun time. Actually, those old Demi companies were fun, right? And so it's just because it was so thematic to see that many drop pods hit the table. I always thought that was a really neat army to play and to play against. So I would be excited to see drop pods back on the table again.
Man, back in the day, you'd be able to bring in like a literal wall of drop pods. You could wall off a whole portion of the table, like 60% of the table. You can make an impenetrable barrier. Now, look,
that was done though when they were free. It was much easier.
No, I'm talking about back when you paid. I mean, originally when you paid points, when they didn't even make a model, there was a forge roll drop pod. And that was it. There was so this has been an archetype. Again, talking about like what's the practicality of this? The practicality is that drop pods are immobile when you bring them down. So, if you bring them down early, what you're doing is giving your opponent, like if they're playing Tyranids or Gene Stealers with the ability to fall back and then charge or whatever, you're basically giving that hostage to your opponent. And so they can stymie your shooting if you're not strategic or very careful with where you put them. So I don't want to make it sound like there's not pitfalls and challenges to doing this, but I'm thinking that the fact that you can effectively, but see, you get to make that choice. So if you're playing against someone that can do that, then you just don't give them that option in the early part of the game. You do try to do more damage. You dedicate 500-ish or so points to this late game objectives, or you've got 500 points-ish or so that you can bring down on turn 1, 2 if you need it or whatever. Your choice. You get a lot of power, a lot of options given to you.
I would have been more excited if my intercessors could hop out of it, but I will take
aggressors
it.
Too. Yeah, man, I would be
aggressors coming out of drop pods.
You can't do that. We're not saying you can't. You cannot do that.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Yeah.
I would pay
as it is. I mean, like one of the things people talk about doing is with those new transports. I think you can fit Gravis armor in those. So don't take that with a grain of salt.
You cannot.
But
they're actually
you cannot
put Gravis armor. Yeah.
All right,
okay.
Ignore what I just said. Then.
You talking about like the repulsor?
The impulsor.
I know they can go in the repulsor.
Yeah.
And I know that they can go in the repulsor executioner because that's got a 6 transport capacity, so you can put a squad of 3 in there.
Yeah.
But the thing about the other one was you could move and then disembark and do the full disembark.
And these guys two slots in those things.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that Gravis armor, especially the aggressors, considering that I think Gravis armor they all got 1 extra wound each and an extra attack. Is that right?
The impulsor cannot transport jump pack or Gravis Marines.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense. It's smaller.
Aggressors have 3 wounds and 3 attacks.
How many points?
The aggressor sergeant has 4 attacks. So that's good, right?
That's phenomenal. I mean, they got freaking power the gauntlets. They're power fists. So that's fantastic.
The
I'll take that all day.
aggressor squad is 21 points a model.
So that's the same. So they just got an extra wound and an extra attack. Hey, cool.
Yeah,
thanks.
Confirmed.
Yeah, that's bonkers. They were already good. I mean, they were already great.
Well,
they were, I think, a rock star unit, and now they're actually going to survive. A little bit more shooting. So
part of the problem was
Dark
Dark Reapers.
Inceptors real fast. This makes me curious.
Like Dark Reapers would wilt your aggressors. And now you see fewer Dark Reapers, and your aggressors have 3 wounds apiece.
Yeah, but I'm with Chris. Tell us Inceptors, because Inceptors are wearing Gravis armor too, and I want to make sure they've got that as well.
All right, let me get to those guys.
We're putting you to work.
Wounds 2, attacks 2 in the old Codex for a regular Inceptor.
2 wounds, 2 attacks. Is that what you said?
That's what they used to be.
That's what they used to be.
Hold tight. The Inceptor squad has 3 wounds apiece.
Yes.
2 attacks.
Ooh, I'm liking that more and more.
I'll take it. Yeah, that's great.
God, I was talking to somebody. I don't know. I maybe in even the last show, but the assault bolters. I get it. That, like bolters, shut up, Paul. I understand, but when you can tactically apply all those shots.
Wait, does somebody talk trash about the assault bolters?
They have, yeah.
Oh no. Now before, when in Index, when the Inceptors were so insanely priced. Sure.
Yeah, they're like 60-something points base before weapons.
Yeah, anybody that, craps on a 135-point unit that puts out, 18 strength 5, AP -1 shots, flies is toughness 5. Dude, a bolter and scepter squad, deep striking in, you think you got some dudes hiding in cover pretty nice in your backfield? 3 of those dudes will clear anything, like light infantry or anything. They are absolute, cancer to like a little light infantry unit sitting on an objective. I love them. I think bolter and scepters are fantastic.
Well, and think about how these are going to work with the new tactical doctrines.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to be good. They were already good in certain applications. They were, I think, amazing. But I had a buddy drop his Inceptors in and just gut an entire squad off of an objective one time. I mean, it's a lot of shots.
They're good at killing characters, especially like Eldar or Drukhari.
Yeah. They're good. You don't have to be too scared of charging them in after you soften up a squad and then charge them in and try to keep, try to kind of stay locked in combat to make it harder for them to shoot you back, or heaven forbid you kill them while you're in there. I mean, you have meteoric, or was it no, crushing charge. I mean, you can't rely on it, but that's potentially mortal wounds right there. I mean, they're a good unit for 135 points. I think they're a very good unit, and now they're going to have an extra wound, which is going to increase their survivability. Yeah, I'm very excited about that.
Well, think about this, right? So you've got your Inceptor squad. You put the assault bolters on them. They are assault 3 weapons. They do fall under the purview of the deployment rules. So they come down on turn 2. Well, turn 2 is when your tactical doctrine's hitting. The tactical doctrine means that the armor penetration of rapid fire and assault weapons is improved by 1.
Mm-hmm.
So now your assault bolters are strength 5, AP -2 turn they come in.
I dare somebody to complain about that. I dare you. Complain about it. Do it, Internet.
Someone's going to take you up on that, Ricky.
I'll do it. Yeah, somebody will do it.
Yeah, no, that you make a good case, both of you guys. I mean, I think I've been a fan of these from the very beginning because you can kind of get real crafty with them when you want to bring them down.
Yeah, they're super good, but also don't forget their plasma exterminators. If you go plasma, are assault as well. So guess what? That's AP -4 plasma.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think Marines are going to be one of Marines' worst matchups, if you know what I'm saying.
100%, yeah. Like, a Marine player is going to roll up and they're going to say, "Oh, crap, I'm playing Marines." Because Marines are now going to be very well suited at killing other Primaris Marines. You know, it's there's so many tools in the old toolkit now.
So at the start of the game, you mentioned the doctrine. So at the start of the game, your Devastator doctrine is active. And so the armor penetration characteristic of heavy and grenade weapons this model is equipped with is improved by 1, whilst the combat doctrine is active. AP 0 becomes AP -1. Tactical doctrine is armor penetration characteristic of rapid fire. And assault weapons are improved by 1. And then the assault doctrine is the armor penetration characteristic of pistol and melee weapons this model is equipped with is improved by 1. I think that's,
Reavers, dude. Reavers are finally going to be viable with that assault doctrine. I think Reavers are going to be great.
Combine that
better.
with...
Yeah,
everything's better. And that's why I think it's useful to point out. I mean, one of the things that has been most proliferated about this new book is Guilliman got nerfed a bit in his rules, where he's no longer rerolling all wounds; he's rerolling wounds of 1.
Yeah.
But it's not, they didn't do that because Guilliman was overpowered at this point. It's because everything that wasn't Guilliman got a lot better.
Let me talk about the doctrines for one more second, if we can. So you start the game with the Devastator doctrine. The next turn, what it says is if this doctrine was active, you can activate the next doctrine. You don't have to. The doctrine is actually active for the rest of the game. So if you only want the Devastator doctrine that we just talked about, you can stay at that. If you want to move to the tactical doctrine the next turn, then you can. It's all like if this doctrine is active, then you can move to the next doctrine. So it's like a progression of war that you're able to roll with. Basically the momentum that you're creating, you can choose to roll with it.
Yeah, you can't go back to the Devastator doctrine. Once you go to tactical, you can't go back to Devastator, but you can stay in Devastator the whole time if you want to. And that's cool though, because like if you build like a mechanized army, right? If you're just running tons of vehicles that are just chock full of heavy weapons, stay in Devastator, and you can do that the whole game.
Well, you can build around it. It's predictable.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Can build around
yeah,
if
it's
you
cool.
want.
I like that it's not some random thing or you can only pick one or anything. I like that. It's so thematic to Space Marines too. It's like you soften them up with your heavy weapons as your tactical squads are moving in, then they become kind of the primary focus, and then you're in assault range, and like that turn 3, you're just going to just hit some people. And I love that it just it encourages you to assault on turn 3, which I'm just excited to anything, because always be charging is kind of what I always live by. If I'm in charge range, I'm going to charge. So I'm happy that I got something to help me back that up. It's really cool.
Well, I think one of the things that's kind of unspoken about these doctrines, and Paul, you've got it right in front of you. You can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe that in order to use these rules, your army has to be monofaction.
That is true. Yeah, it does. So let me tell you exactly what it says.
I'm so pumped.
Yeah, read it exactly, and then I have a little happy dance speech I got to do about this, because this is exciting for me.
Throughout this book, you will come across chapter keywords. This is shorthand for keyword for your choosing your described below. All Space Marine units are drawn from a chapter. When you include such a unit in your army, you must nominate which chapter chapter it is from and replace the chapter keyword in every instance of its data sheet with the name of your chosen chapter. That means you can have, whatever your homegrown chapter is, but it just has to be consistent with whatever. This can be one of the chapters detailed in Warhammer 40,000 or of your own design. You cannot choose Blood Angels, Dark Angels, blah, blah, blah. You get where I'm going.
Yep. Same old, same old.
Yep. So then it goes on to say, the Angels of Death ability is common to the Adeptus Astartes units. And then it tells you all what happens in the Angels of Death. So the units has the following abilities: and they should know no fear, Vulture Discipline, Shock and Assault, and Combat Doctrines. So that's a long way of saying you got to have a chapter, and then you get the doctrines.
Yep. It sounds like they're trying to make it Loctite. And I mean, with a game as complicated as this, who knows what weird exception someone's going to try and make a case for later. But what this shows me is that Games Workshop is looking at the way that the game is being played right now and deciding that people who play Pure Faction will get benefits, extra benefits for staying within their codex that will make it more worth it to do that, or at least as worth it to do that as getting some of the benefits from the other books. Like, this is huge. I've been years long, I've stood on this hill and I planted this flag and said, respect the Pure Factions. And now there's rules that are, this is something that if you're taking the Loyal 32, you're trading the benefits of these doctrines for the benefits of the Loyal 32. Do you think it's going to be worth it? You have to make that call. Now it's actually a choice you have to make. You have a cost benefit ratio that you have to factor in when you're building your list. And this isn't to say that anyone who brings mixed faction is bad or wrong, that the game's not made for that. That's not the point. The point is, for those of us who love to play within our own faction, this gives us an extra reason to stay that way.
It goes on further to say, like in the Combat Doctrines, is that if you have a Battle-Forged army, units only benefit from this bonus if every unit from your army has the ability, excluding servitors and unaligned units. So fortifications or whatever, then you get the Combat Doctrines.
So it sounds like I can mix Ultramarines and White Scars or Dark Angels and Ultramarines or whatever into separate detachments, because they will all be Space Marines and they will all have the doctrines, and that makes sense, right? Because Space Marines fighting with Space Marines would stick to it, but essentially, if I'm playing all Marines, then I'm going to have this. So that's right where I'm totally pumped about that. And it's kind of funny, like this is we always kind of got picked on, Chris and I, for being kind of like the single faction fanboys, right? We always want to play one codex.
Hey, I want to play one codex, but I also like to win.
Well, now you may actually play one codex because what it is. It's not giving Space Marines something insane. It's given that one little boost that kind of counteracts the benefits of when you take different detachments from different books. You're cherry picking these like super effective units, right? Or these super effective models that are bringing something to your overall strategy, and that's always going to be just a little better than taking a single faction build, right? So this gives that single faction build some incentive to kind of overcome some of those efficiencies that you can get in other factions. And I think it's really cool to see this happen right on the heels of the ITC going to also rewarding Pure Faction when it comes to scoring. So it's
You're welcome.
Thank you. But it is nice to see that the community, the 40k community as a whole, is finally starting to recognize that single faction players should, I guess, have as many options or have as much right to be competitive and have the recognition of playing single faction. So I'm very excited with where everything is right now.
Before you get too hot and heavy with this talk, we're going to take a break, then we'll come back and talk about some of the chapter tactics that may help enforce what you're talking about.
Gosh, they're great.
We'll be right back.
Let's do it.
FTN is brought to you by Discount Games Inc. Please visit them at www.discountgamesinc.com. And don't forget to ask Jay about ways to save even more on your hobby projects.
Hey everybody, we are back talking about Codex Space Marines.
Dun, dun, dun.
I still haven't seen the lion show up, so I'm still slightly disappointed.
First among equals. I think that was the title
bottle.
of one of the Forge World emails about the 30k stuff. Some
Yep,
cool stuff.
it's true. The new Terminator Praetor and the Dark Angels Contemptor Dreadnought is up for pre-order right now.
That stuff makes me mad how good it looks.
Dude, that Praetor is one of the best ones. He's got a wicked awesome looking sword. He's got the gun kind of at that off angle. He looks good. The Dreadnought looks really good too. Really makes me think of like 12th, 13th, 14th century knights and things. It's good stuff.
The chapters we're talking about, and then there's been some, of course, stratagems in this book that are all for Space Marines and stuff. And, I want to talk about some of the coolness that is the drop pod assault and then the Auspex scan. I don't want to jump too far ahead of the gun. We're going to talk about some of the chapter tactics, but I mean, there's some dirty things I think you can do with this stuff. So Black Templars, when a charge roll is made for a unit with this tactic, you can re-roll any or all of the dice. Any or all.
It's huge.
In addition, when a model with this tactic would lose a wound as a result of a mortal wound, roll a d6 on a 5+, that wound is not lost. So, if I can, let me point out the fact that I did not mention anything about the psychic phase. That's just if you were to lose a wound due to a mortal wound on a 5+, that wound is not lost. Where does that come into effect? Like catechin traps, the other Space Marine, like satchel bombs. That's a new unit. We haven't talked about it, but it does mortal wounds.
And I also just want to point out, and the thing, we're thinking about infantry, but you remember those pesky Harlequin Haywire bikers? Guess what? Now Black Templars, their tanks are going to have this. So
interesting, yeah.
On a 5-up, Black Templars are going to ignore mortal wounds from Haywires. That's like a third of Haywire wounds are not going to apply. That's insanely good for that niche situation.
I had not thought about that use, but that's
really good.
But I think it's just important to notice that it is not a psychic phase thing. And now, obviously, intent is to make them somewhat resistant to psychic smites and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But that's not what it doesn't say anything about that stuff in here. It just says mortal wound, you get a shot.
Yeah, I mean, thematically, I think that's definitely where they were going, right? Is that they don't care so much because they're so anti-psyker. But yeah, I mean, it applies across the board, and that's on a 5-up, so that's a third of them compared to I think what Iron Hands is getting, like a 6-up or something, right?
Let me call shenanigans here on the Space Marine chapter list.
Okay.
Ultramarines have 1 entry. Imperial Fist have 3. Imperial Fist, Black Templars, and Crimson Fist.
Yeah, with the chapter customization rules in there, now there can be.
So I say that, of course, we're talking about the Black Templars, and they're, of course, cool and a long-standing chapter ever since, what was it? The I Have Terror campaign?
Gosh,
so.
I'm trying to think of when I remember Black Templars from. Was it the 3rd edition box?
It was the 3rd edition thing, yeah.
Yeah, I remember. It's the first time I remember seeing Black Templars was that 3rd edition box cover art. Is the first time I remember knowing that they existed. Like, if you remember, like Custodes, if you look at Custodes, they have I think a 6 on mortal wounds in the psychic phase.
Yeah.
I would much rather have this than that for Custodes.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's strong. I think that's really strong. It's not always going to be applicable, I mean, there's certain armies where it's just not that big of a deal, but there are other armies that, that'll win you a game.
So the Imperial Fist and the Crimson Fist got a little bit of a buff with their chapter tactics. So Imperial Fist is when resolving attacks made with a ranged weapon by a model with this tactic, the target does not receive the benefits of cover to its saving throw. And if that attack was made with a bolt weapon, an unmodified roll of a 6 scores 1 additional hit.
That's good.
You're going to be rolling a lot of dice with Bolter Drill and this one and Marines. is.
You know how many sixes you roll with aggressors shooting a 6-man aggressor squad shooting 72 plus 12d6 shots. I think you're going to get a few sixes in there, so that's going to pay off.
Yeah, and then Crimson Fist is when resolving an attack made by a model with this tactic against a unit that contains at least 5 more models than the model's unit. Add 1 to the hit roll.
I like that.
Yeah, for the purposes of this tactic, a vehicle model with this tactic counts as 5 models. In addition, when resolving an attack made with a bolt weapon by a model with this tactic, an unmodified roll of a 6 scores 1 additional hit. So, I mean, you're not talking about unmodified 6s, so you're still fishing for the 6s. But the +1 to hit means you're hitting a lot of times on 2s.
Yeah, that's wordy. That's a very wordy chapter tactic, but I like that they put that in there, and it's clear. They made it nice and clear. Also, it's really hard to kill yourself with plasma when you're adding 1 to the hit roll. So you go to town on it, and that's the thing that Crimson Fists. When the White Dwarf came out with basically kind of this same thing, that's my buddy and I was talking. He's like, yeah, man, I'll be supercharging every time. I was like, why? He's like, you add 1 to your hit roll. He said, what do I care? And it's you don't have to panic when you're not near somebody to give you the rerolls, because you're adding 1 to the hit roll. So unless they're a minus, you're never rolling a 1.
So what works in 40? What is one of the things that works in 40k right now? Dump and pump plasma.
Yeah.
So I mean, overcharging. Go for it. Come down turn 5 with your pods, with your plasma marines.
I'm coming down turn 2 with those plasma inceptors at AP -4, supercharged. So strength A, AP -4, 2 damage, and I'm not going to kill myself. Because that's one of the scary things, right, about plasma inceptors.
Removing a 40-point model with your...
Yeah, the scary thing about plasma inceptors is you have 2d3 shots per dude. So on average, that's what, 4 shots. So you're rolling 4 dice, and odds are you're going to roll a 1, right? So you rarely ever want to supercharge with deep striking inceptors, because you're not going to be near a chapter master or a company master or something to give you a captain to give you the reroll.
You can be, though.
You can be.
You might not.
You can set that up. Yeah, but for the most part, you're probably going to drop those guys in somewhere backfield, so you can either try to snipe out a character, like get close enough to a character that's been left exposed, or you're getting on those backfield objectives where you can't get your other guys. That's what they're great at, is getting in the backfield and causing havoc. Well, now you can cause that havoc at AP -4, and you're not worried about blowing yourself up. So you're dropping in 3 dudes in, that's 6d3 plasma shots supercharged, and you're not going to kill yourself. That's huge. It's huge for Crimson Fist. And there's 5 more, it's a 3-man unit, so there's only got to be 8 models. So it makes it just a little easier for you to get that off as well.
We'll jump to to Verbute's change here in a second, but there's a stratagem, transhuman physiology. Use this stratagem when an Adeptus Astartes unit from your army that is not a vehicle or a servitor is chosen as a target for attack until the end of the phase. When resolving an attack made against that unit, an unmodified wound roll of 1 to 3 always fails, irrespective of any abilities that the weapon or the model making the attack may have.
Oh,
wow.
Oh, that's good.
It's 2 command points.
Oh, that's for the right unit. That's cheap.
Wow. That's so it doesn't matter what's attacking it. So an Imperial Knight coming in with its sword has to roll 4, 5, or 6 to cause a wound.
Transhuman physiology, my brother.
Ooh.
Diggity dang. That's some sweet physiology that's
Someone who pulled that right out of Black Library.
Yeah, like a Reaper chainsword,
until the end of the phase, when resolving an attack made against that unit, an unmodified wound roll of 1 through 3 always fails. There's I'm not adding any words there.
Yeah.
Per phase. You could use this in the shooting and the assault phases.
Dude, that's fun. That's fun. That is situationally bonkers, but that is fun, right? I'm gonna supercharge this plasma. Yeah, I don't care. Cool, do it. Boom. You need 4s. You need 4s.
Please let my Sanguinary Guard get that ability. Please, please, please.
Oh my! Scan. Since we jumped to strategy, Auspex Scan I was talking about. It's a 2 command point stratagem. Use this stratagem after your opponent sets up a unit on the battlefield within 12 inches of any Adeptus Astartes infantry units from your army. Select one of those units from your army to shoot at the enemy as if it were your shooting phase. When resolving attacks, subtract 1 from hit rolls. So,
so no change there, but that's,
it's 2 command points. But think of the dynamic, though, has changed because now you can, Gene Stealer cults rely, it's a gotcha army.
Yeah.
I'm not saying people playing are gotcha players, but I mean, it's a kind of rope-a-dope, you don't know what's happening type army, and stuff comes out from the shadows a lot. When you're able to put something up in their grill to where you've got a 12-inch, let's think about effectively on the table what a 12-inch radius is from the unit, because it's not 12 inches, like you don't get to fire you don't have a 12-inch threat range. It's if anything appears within 12 inches of that unit. So if you have a unit that's spread across the table, let's say you came down on a drop pod and then deployed your 10 guys over whatever 47 million inches that is, then the whole unit can fire the things that are going to come up later that turn or turn 2.
Yeah, I love Auspex Scan. I love Auspex Scan even more when my aggressors haven't moved and are in range. And I love it even more when my Azrael and my Lieutenant are within range of those aggressors. And that is when Auspex Scan is just beautiful. I love that stratagem. Unfortunately, Gene Stealer cults have some good ways to get around it. They're pretty tricksy, so they can usually deal with that sometimes. Like, they've got some good stuff there that can prevent that.
Well, you're going to run out of command points eventually.
Yeah.
So even if you do get a shot off, but say that unit that shows up 3 inches away or whatever, eat some bolters. So you ain't killing them all, but you might kill enough to where their volume of attacks, because they survive on weight of attacks at that point, that they may not get your unit dug out.
Yeah, with rapid fire weapon, you're pumping out a lot of shots. If they're within 12 inches, that means they're within rapid fire range. And aggressors don't care about that. Aggressors are just going to waste them. And heaven forbid they come up on your turn or after your turn 2 when you're in tactical doctrine, right? And then you're just mowing them down with AP -1 or AP -2 shots with Auspex Scan. So Auspex Scan, I think, become just even better with the doctrines. It was good before. It's great now, and wasn't it recently FAQ'd now? So anytime somebody comes, even if they if you Wings of Fire, I think Auspex Scan works now. Even so that's
something that changed.
Yeah, and thank goodness it did, because that was unfortunate that you couldn't Auspex Scan before out of that. And so
I'm not okay with it, but okay.
Yeah, you're not. But it works both ways. You have it too, but it's a great stratagem, and it's I'm glad to see it stay.
So, Target Sighted is a 3 command point stratagem. Use this stratagem at the start of your shooting phase. Select one Intercessor Squad unit from your army. Until the end of that phase, Stalker bolt rifles that models in the unit are equipped with gain the following ability. This weapon can target a character unit even if they are not the closest enemy.
Sick.
When resolving an attack made with this weapon, a wound roll of 6+ inflicts 1 mortal wound on the target in addition to any other damage.
Even sicker.
Ooh.
Dude.
It's 3 command points, so you're not doing this very often.
Yeah, you're not, but first off, the Stalkers got good, finally. The Stalker was just never really a great option. Even with backfield objective holders, I just didn't love it. It's a heavy bolt rifle. It just never made a lot of sense to me, right? But now all of a sudden, your 5-man intercessor squad sitting in the backfield on some objectives are now, they now have that option to essentially become a sniper unit for a turn. And what damage did the Stalkers go up to? Did they go up to 2 damage base? Is that right now?
I believe it is 2 damage. Let me get that for you.
I was thinking it was strength 5 or something, 2 damage. I can't remember exactly what it went up to. But either way, they went up to 2 damage.
Stalker bolt rifle is strength 4, neg 2 AP, 2 damage. Heavy 1, 36 inches.
Right. And so, you have those guys sitting back there, and then somebody gets froggy and pops their character up near you, or it just gets too close. and you can turn them into snipers.
Well,
So
I mean,
now you
think
have to
about
be very
Demon
careful about where you
Princes-
place your characters.
This weapon's pretty good against Demon Princes.
Mm-hmm.
Strength 4 is not amazing, but
Yep.
you're still winning on 5s. At the worst, you get a lot of shots
Mm-hmm.
because it is. I mean, it's heavy 1, but you're not paying a lot per Marine.
Yeah, you got an 85 point unit there that's going to pump out 5 strength 4 AP -2 shots that do 2 damage apiece. Heaven forbid you use this on turn 1, and those are heavy, so that becomes AP -3.
But Demon Princes are the top end and probably what you're aiming at. A lot of the other stuff is toughness 4 or 3.
Yeah.
That you're trying to get rid of the auras.
Guard characters, you pay some command points, and a guard character vanishes from the table. I mean, it's...
Well, I mean, if I'm targeting Demon Princes, I mean, this is a great tool to have in the toolbox, but really, I'm super interested in the Eliminators because an increase of strength to 5 on all of their weapons.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're heavy and they also benefit from the Devastator Doctrine, because they have one round already that's already AP -2, if I recall. And the fact that think about this, the round that they have that doesn't require line of sight, that can target characters, becomes and ignores cover, becomes AP -2 without requiring line of sight at strength 5.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
And if you choose with the sergeant, they can hit on 2s. Like, I'm a big fan of the Eliminators. As soon as those go up for pre-order, I'm getting some more because I've really had good experiences with them.
You don't have 3 squads of those already? What's wrong with you? Oh my gosh.
I didn't have $300 to get 3 squads off of eBay.
I worked out so many dope deals. I was borrowing, I was trading, I did everything. And I got 3 squads of those things. I pulled Hellblasters out of my army just so I could put more Eliminators in. But the thing is, like, the Eliminators are fantastic. Eliminators were fantastic before any of this happened. I loved Eliminators, and now Eliminators are even better. But the thing I love about
what do they cost more? I need to know.
Oh, that's a good question. But while we were talking on the intercessors, the one thing I want to say is, like, think about how you can set it up to where characters are just not safe anywhere on the battlefield. If you have these intercessor squads that you can all of a sudden just make them a sniper for a turn, Eliminator squads on the table, intercessor squads on the table. There's just so many ways that Space Marines can take out characters now in the shooting phase. I mean, or at least threaten characters. That's really exciting.
I think so too, and I think to a point, like it eliminates the need to maybe bring in an assassin ally.
100%, and you would give up your doctrines if you did that. So, golly, how many points is an assassin? It's about 85 points, right?
85 points.
Yeah, 85.
And an Eliminator squad was right about that, were they not?
They were pretty cheap. For three of them, I think it was somewhere in the 60s actually.
Oh yeah, I think you may be right. Wasn't it like it was something? I remember it was something very 72 points. 72 points. that's good. Tell me
for a heavy support slot. I mean, that's how I filled the brigade.
Yeah,
I saved a bunch of points bringing Eliminators, and they delivered for me every time.
I have a hard time believing that anyone could put Eliminators on the table and them not make their points back.
Their base cost is 18 points apiece. So.
Wait, did they get cheaper? Hold on.
Depends on how much the guns cost.
No, because the rifle was 3 points and the camo cloak's 3 points is what they cost on the breakdown on Battlescrap. So 18 points with cloaks, rifle, that puts them at 24 points apiece. So I think that's still going to. I think that's
still the same.
Points, right?
Yeah, that would be the same.
Oh my goodness! Let's get those fully painted.
So another big change is the Chaplain, and we'll talk about the Chaplain, then we'll jump to Guilliman here.
Wait, tell me. Don't tease me anything. Am I actually going to put a Chaplain in an army?
Well, you get the Litanies of Hate, which is the Litany is inspiring. You can reroll hit rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by models in friendly chapter units while they're within 6 inches of the model.
So that's the same.
You also get the Litanies of Battle. You choose the Litanies of Hate and then one from the Litanies of Battle, which function very similarly to the way that the Dark Apostle works in Codex Chaos Space Marines.
Finally, Chaplains have something to recommend them. Like, this is, I mean, they were already, I mean, there are some lists where they were already doing pretty well. I mean, there was the Blood Angels list that at the Boise Cup that went undefeated that was using a Chaplain with a jump pack and a power fist. That was, I mean, it went undefeated. It speaks for itself. but being able to add an additional ability on top of that, so good.
Well, my problem with chaplains has always been, okay, I can take a chaplain, I can reroll hit rolls in the combat phase, or I can take a captain and I can reroll hit rolls in both. So what are the other litanies going to do for me? Because remember, I refuse to look at chaos stuff, so I don't know what those do.
So the mantra of strength,
I know you're laughing because I play Dark Angels, Chris. You shut up.
So the
I
mantra
didn't
of
say
strength,
anything.
if this litany is if it's inspiring you, so you got to roll, right? Add 1 to the model's attacks and strength characteristics, and add 1 to the damage characteristics of melee weapons with this model is equipped with.
Okay. Wait, it's just that model?
If this litany is inspiring, add 1 to the model's strength, and then the Canticles of Hate. If this is inspiring, add 2 to charge rolls made for friendly chapter units within 6 inches of the chaplain.
Oh gosh,
I like that.
In addition, when a friendly chapter unit makes a pile-in or consolidation move within 6 inches of the model, models in that unit can move up to additional 3 inches.
Dang!
Yeah. This is not cumulative with any other abilities, but that's still pretty darn strong.
Well, I mean, imagine coming down from Deep Strike with a chaplain or the jump pack with a +2 to your charge range. That's 7-inch charges. That is something that becomes so, and that's units within. That's not, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
The potential. I'm seeing stars, guys.
Strong. It's strong.
Seeing red.
And there are 4 other litanies. So
wait, read them all.
No,
Slowly.
we got more episodes coming. So you got to tune in next week for the rest of the
I don't know how I feel about the way you said that, Ricky.
You know how I felt about that. Because let's be honest, that Primaris Chaplain model is sick. I mean, it's gorgeous, and you never see it on the table. And dude, thank you for giving me a reason to want to put that in an army. That thing is gorgeous, and I can't wait. I love it.
It's important. Jump into the supplements for a second. So the Codex Space Marine supplements, in both of the supplements, they have a relics section and then a special issue war gear section.
Hey, while you're on that though, so the Space Marine book itself though also has relics and the chapter tactics for creating your own chapter and all that, right? So
yes,
it'll be there.
Yeah.
And in addition, I guess my follow-up question to that is, now could, let's say Ultramarines or White Scars, can they take from either? Can they take from the Ultramarines and can they take from the Space Marine?
I'll read exactly what it says. If your army is led by an Ultramarines warlord, you can give one of the following relics of McCrag to an Ultramarines character model from your army instead of giving them a relic from Codex Space Marines.
So you can. So I guess you can go either?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
That's my interpretation.
Yeah, that's the way it reads. So instead of you must.
These are considered to be a chapter relic for all rules purposes. Named characters such as Marnius Calgar and vehicle models cannot be given the following relics. So same sort of rule set.
All right.
Before we jump to that, I know I said it, the Null Zone. Null Zone is a warp charge value of 7. If manifested, the unit, then until the start of your next psychic phase, and vulnerable saves cannot be made for enemy units while they're within 6 inches of the psyker.
Still good.
Still good, yep.
I love that one.
That's danger close, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is a great ability to pair with... If you're picking your stacking powers before a game, right, and you're facing up, say, against a bunch of guard with Bulgrins, all of a sudden you don't care about those Bulgrins anymore. Or you're making sure they can't put the Bulgrins where they want them to out of fear of this ability.
Yeah, I've always been a huge fan of that psychic power on like a librarian on a bike or something like that, and you could just ride up and turn an Imperial Knight's invul save off and blast it. There's
6 inches
so good.
is you have to be sure you're going to eliminate whatever you're shooting at.
Oh yeah, but
basically
just sixes all the time. You're good.
You're saying goodbye to your Codicier forever, but if it pays off, it could be super worth it. Would you trade a 1 librarian for 1 Imperial Knight, or maybe an entire unit of Custodian Bikers?
Yeah, or the thing I love about it is if somebody's playing demons, bloodthirsters or not bloodthirsters, bloodthirsters,
plague bearers,
plague bearer. Anything. It's they're going to be coming at you anyway, right? They're going to be charging you, and they're going to charge into that your front line of troops. and you got your librarian right behind them, as soon as they hit that 6-inch mark, dude, they're turned off and they don't have anything else. Null Zone can be very frightening to certain armies.
So the special issue War Gear is opened up to like successor chapters, and it's relics, things like the Adamantine Mantle, Artificer Armor, things, kind of things that we've come accustomed to from previous editions and stuff.
Yeah. Is the Banner of the Emperor Ascendant, is that in Space Marines or Ultramarines? I think it goes to any Space Marine army, doesn't it?
It's in Space Marines, but then the standard of McCragg's Inviolate is one of the Ultramarines ones.
Ooh, what's it do? I mean, it sounds cool.
Add 1 to the attack characteristics of models in friendly Ultramarines units whilst they're within 6 inches of the model with this relic.
Okay.
They automatically pass morale test if they're within 12 inches.
I'll take Emperor Ascendant for 5,000.
So let me talk about Guilliman's here. So Guilliman, and I mean, you can make a really good case for Calgar.
That's the exact conversation I just had today, and I love that. That's perfect. You know how that right there is how we know that they probably got Guilliman right where he needs to be, right? Because now he's still really good. He's still really strong. But you're considering and you're even talking about maybe Calgar and a lieutenant would do what I need it to do, right? Because that's always been the problem to me with Guilliman. And don't get me wrong, I love Guilliman. I built my nephew's army. It has Guilliman. My 7-year-old son's army has Guilliman because he's really good and he's cool and it's an amazing model. But the problem with Guilliman to me has always been, you see him everywhere. Every army had him. If you're playing Ultramarines, you were almost it was laughable to not have Guilliman.
You just had to.
It was just, you're playing, your Marines are painted blue, pay the 400 point tax and win games. And it wasn't an option. And to me, 40k is at its best when you're building an army and you have a hard time deciding what units to put in it. Because he's no longer an auto take. He's still fantastic at what he does, but he's not an automatic take. And that, I think, is how you know he's right there where he needs to be now.
So he's got the Angels of Death keyword, so that's going to give you all the stuff that we talked about before. Armor of Fate still comes back to life. Author of the Codex, get 3 command points. I think that's the same.
Yep.
Master of Battle, add 1 to advance rolls and charge rolls made by friendly Imperium units while they're within 12 inches of Guilliman.
Mm-hmm.
Reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by models in friendly Imperium units while they're within 12 inches of him. That's the same.
Mm-hmm.
You can reroll morale tests taken for friendly Imperium units while they're within 12 inches of Robert Guilliman.
Did you call him Robert?
I did. And then
he's one of the most illustrious names. I mean, he's got more names than a custodian. Let's be real.
There's a lot of titles in there.
Yeah. And then he's got the Primarch ability, reroll hit rolls for attacks made by models with friendly Ultramarines while they're within 6 inches of him. So that's the same. But then the big change is reroll wound rolls of 1 for attacks made by models with friendly Ultramarines and friendly Ultramarines units within 6 inches of them. So it's not all wounds, it's just rerolls of 1s.
Right. And points went down a good chunk.
350 now. So yeah. That's a significant chunk.
Yeah. But you know what's
not a huge sacrifice. Only a sacrifice in 1. I mean, it's a quarter of the sacrifice thing.
I would argue though, the sacrifice was the most. What he lost is the most important thing about Guilliman. That is what he lost though. He's the only person in the game. Is he the only guy in the game that lets you reroll all wound rolls?
All wound, yeah, he was. Yeah, I think.
And that. The thing that he allowed, the thing that Guilliman allowed was low strength weapons to become insanely, what's the word I'm looking for? Effective. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word effective. That's embarrassing. But the
threatening, I would say threatening.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because people roll in with some bolt guns. Okay, big deal. But a bolt gun that rerolls all failed wound rolls is now a huge deal, right? And Guilliman made repulsors like insanely powerful because just a massive amount of really tough, low strength shooting from these 300 point units. And when Guilliman's there, repulsors were just insanely good at wiping out infantry because they weren't going to miss, and most likely they were going to cause some wounds. Them pulling that back from Guilliman has made it's backed Ultramarines off, I think, a little from the obvious choice, because let's be honest, like, who out there is playing a Space Marine faction right now, not Ultramarines, and not feeling?
But I don't know if you have that Ultramarines, if you got the Ultramarines gun line, it's not going to change it too much. You're still going to be getting that rerolling hits, rerolling wounds.
No, he's where he. I think where he's at is fair. I think the points are fair, but also the most important thing is that other Space Marine lists are now just as viable as Ultramarines. Because before it was ridiculous to not take Guilliman because of what he brought to the table, right? And to play Ultramarines because of what Guilliman brought to the table. And now, with him losing that ability, I can get those same abilities by taking a Chapter Master, or, a Company or a Chapter Master and a Lieutenant. Sure, I don't get the Hand of Dominion, I don't get Big Daddy's sword, but I've got those rerolls. And so, all of a sudden, I don't feel like a goober for playing Dark Angels or for playing Crimson Fist, Imperial Fist, White Scars.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, where he's at now is, I think, even from a guy who loves Guilliman, I love the character, I love the model, I love him on the table. I think great unit. I love the narrative of him coming back. Very cool stuff. I think he's back to within reason.
Let's take a quick break. There's a ton to cover in these codexes, or in this codex and the supplements, and we're not going to get to it all. So I'm going to take a quick break, come back, and do a finishing moves segment that was inadvertently submitted by a listener, and then we'll pick up this codex coverage next week as well. So there's a ton to cover. I might even try to work in a bonus episode to all the theory and list crafting that everyone's doing. But hang on one second. We'll come right back to a finishing moves segment.
We're sponsored by Firmaterra. With their sturdy, lightweight and portable tables, you can make war anywhere. Please visit them at www.firmaterra.com.
We are back. So, finishing moves. This is not a finishing move in its truest sense. This is an airbrush technique that was inadvertently kind of spawned by a listener who sent me a message. He's like, yo, do you remember like a year ago when somebody had that marble technique online somewhere? I can't find it. I want to know if you could help me out. I was like, why is he asking me? And I'm like, oh, right. I'm a giant nerd and probably know. So
that's true.
Turns out I did know. But I thought, especially with like Ultramarines, marble, like there was, I can't remember the name of the Land Raider, but they put out like Marnius's.
Was it not Terminus Ultra? What was
No, the one that was in the White Dwarf like a decade ago or whatever.
I remember what you're talking about.
They did plastic card and green stuff to make like arches on instead of the normal.
Yeah.
Well, it's amazing. I'm like, marbleization. There was marbleization on the like the top plates and stuff. I'm not saying you're going to replicate that, but the guy's question was, hey, Paul, remember when somebody put out that dryer sheet technique? Can you help me?
What?
Yeah, no, he sent me a picture. He's like, I tried doing this with I said, I tried using a dryer sheet on my airbrush and didn't turn out. I'm like, no, what they did was they took a dryer sheet and they pulled it apart, like almost like a spider's web.
Okay.
To where you get the strands of the dryer sheet to make what looks like you're pulling cobwebs apart from the sheet. So it's just barely, you got you see all this space in between, and then you've got the connective like membranes and tissue between.
So you're almost using it like a masking tape.
That's it. So what you're doing, you're making it. It's not necessarily a stencil. It's kind of like a mask to where you pull it, to whatever. Opacity is not the word, but to whatever thickness and density of the marble that you want, and then you lay it over. He was doing knight shoulders, is what he was doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're essentially making a stencil out of it. It's just instead of the stencil, instead of you hiding the color. Your base color, and then going over it, you're going to, I guess, do whatever color you want the marbled lines to be, and then you're going to cover over that with your base coat color, right?
He did reverse whatever, but the reason we're even talking about it is because you just heard my clumsy explanation of it. Like, it
was terrible. Yeah,
you heard it. That's what you just heard, and then he did it, and it looked good.
Yeah. I want to see this. I want to try this. Like,
I've
if I
seen
can do that.
Similar effect with cotton balls as well.
Because let me tell you guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I tried to, I was making this really cool statue terrain piece for the shop one day, and I made a base for it. Like, this statue is standing on this big base, and I was like, you know what would look cool if that base was marble, right? And so I had it on this I had a piece of wood that I made the base out of, that this statue is on. Okay, I painted it, I primed it, got and started on it, and then I took it and started drawing these lines to try to do the marble effect. And somehow I did all this work, and when I was done, I made the block of wood that I painted look like a block of wood. And so it did not work out well, but I put a lot of time into it. So I'm kind of wishing I knew this a year ago.
What he was using was like some kind of like dab technique, and it wasn't working for him because he only had, half the tech. And between the two of us, we figured it out. I was like, the recollection of you store these things away in the back of your head. So when it's time to, to use them, you could like bring it out and get your best shot. And that's what it is. And he did. He showed me. He's like, it didn't work out. I'm like, I think I remember it was doing this, and I just explained. And then he did it, and it worked. I'm like, whoa, this is like worth talking about because it seems pretty straightforward. It's like you make whatever it is that those strands of the material are going to be your marbleization. And so it's an airbrush technique, which not everybody has an airbrush in it, and I respect that. And I'm not trying to steer anybody towards an airbrush. I'm saying that if you already have one, then this is something you can kind of keep in your bag of tricks.
You don't want to do that? I'll do it. Step back a second. If you don't have an airbrush, get an airbrush. Why are you doing it yourselves?
It's not for everybody. I'm not saying the airbrush is the de facto way to go. I'm not great with my airbrush, but I have it as a way to do certain things a little bit more efficiently.
And even if it's just a base coat yellow without gouging your eyes out, get an airbrush.
Yeah. So of course, if anybody's on the fence about getting an airbrush and wants to know some effective ways to do it, or what are the best things to get, hit us up. Happy to talk about it. I'm really happy with mine over the years, but I thought this was a good technique to pass along because it takes something that's seemingly very complex. It gets you an effect that is greater than the time that you spent on actually doing it. And that's kind of the heart of the finishing move segment. And so that's why I wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, man, I'm glad I listened to the show tonight. I'm going to go try.
Well, I mean, you pull it apart. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about now.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Just take it and kind of start to just stretch it out until it starts to rip and take those fibers.
It's ripping and pulls apart the fibers in a way that's, it gives you kind of a random type effect. But once you lay it, once you stick it on a model and hold it down with your fingers, I would hold it down with my fingers and just spray over it like a stencil. I think some things that you would have to do with that, and this is just me thinking about it, like trying to do it, is that you would need to make sure that it was locked in place very well, because it's going to be these thin strands, and if they move, paint you got to be very deliberate with the spray. Like keep it moving,
I think spray straight down on it from the brush. Don't, because if you come at it from an angle, I think that would cause an issue. But I'm actually excited to try that. I think that could give a neat effect. Oh,
that's the show for this. We got plenty of more Space Marine coverage coming. We didn't talk about the White Scars. The White Scars are going to be very deadly in close combat, and they've got some tricks too. I want to hear what everyone is planning, what they're doing, breathing life into their drop pods and that kind of stuff. Really excited to hear what everybody's got with the Space Marines, because I don't know who doesn't have some Space Marines on the shelf.
Yeah, my Raven Wing, I'm trying to figure out how many coats of white would have to go over all those black models, because those White Scars are looking really fun. So I'm pretty excited about that.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining me tonight. Back with next week with more Space Marine stuff. Going to read some reviews. Thanks for everybody that's bringing them in. Got some really nice ones over the last week or so. Those are coming back. We ran out of time tonight. Tune in next week, everybody.
Good night.
Baby in the corner.